My guest today is an art teacher at Perrysburg High School. We nerd out about national parks at the beginning of the episode, how she got into that, what really got into. I thought she was going to nerd out about her pottery, but that was most of the episode too. But we talked about national parks, talked about how she got to school, kind of changing what she liked there, how she got into teaching, her first teaching job. Talk about if she needs like the validation she needs from pottery and where she gets that from, her pottery community, her family, her supportive family, and how they help her, the different kinds of art, why she does what she does, and interesting story at the end about friend of the show, Scott Bucher, and the interaction they had when an alarm went off at the junior high. So enjoy this episode. It was great. She was a wonderful guest, and thanks for downloading. And here's my guest.
Hi, I'm Meghan Yarnell, and this is the Nerdball podcast.
This is the Nerdball podcast with Lorenzo Melcher.
Perfect, Meghan. Thanks for coming on the podcast today.
Thanks for having me.
Before we start, I want to say we are recorded at the Fort Meigs CrossFit Studios. If you want to know any information about the classes they offer, the different age ranges they have, they have classes 7 days a week for any skill level. Check out fortmeigscrossfit.com. Meghan, I had recommendations for you to come on this podcast, so hopefully you live up to them.
Oh, that's kind of scary.
No,
right,
I'm kidding.
I guess.
I'm looking forward to it. The first thing, and I don't know if people listen to my podcast. I just assume people don't. So when I have guests on, I tell them the first thing I have you guys do, or the first question I ask is, what's something you've been nerding out about, something you're really into, if it's something that just started, if it's something you've been doing for years. The only thing, it can't be your job. Now, yours is a little different because it kind of is your job, but which I would think that's what you would talk about. But if you have other things you want to talk about, but feel free. But
I mean, I could talk about pottery, but I think what I've been pretty excited about lately are national parks.
Okay, all right, yeah, definitely. Let's talk about that. I work for the Metro Parks.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
So my husband and I like to travel a lot.
Okay.
So we've got a trip coming up over President's Day weekend. We're going to Bryce Canyon National Park.
Where's that at?
It's in Utah.
Okay.
We went to Zion last President's Day weekend, which is also in Utah.
Okay.
And we've been to Crater Lake National Park, which is in Oregon. We've been to Alaska. We've been to the Pacific Northwest, all up and down the coast. So
is this something like...
Oh, in Acadia National Park in Maine.
So is this something that is more of a recent thing? Like, hey, I want to try to go to all these national parks, or is this something that...
I think kind of... we've always really been kind of outdoorsy, but then we had kids, and... it's tough to get away when you have young kids, but his sister lived in Phoenix, Arizona for 10 years, and we used to go out there and visit them, and it's just gorgeous out there.
Yeah.
And we just figured out, we could just, walk outside, and there's mountains that we can go hike on, right down the street.
It's not Ohio.
Yeah, and they lived a mile from, the South Mountain Range, and there were all these trails, so we would just wake up in the morning, because the time difference is weird, and so we'd be up super early, and we're like, well, let's just go find, a new trail. And then we kind of branched out a little bit. We went to Sedona, went to the Grand Canyon, we went to Flagstaff, while we were there, just, we're so close to all of these, great places. So we started out doing that. And then we're both pretty active people. We don't do very well sitting still for long. So I think both of our ideal vacations are something where we're gonna do lots of active stuff during the day. We're gonna see some cool stuff that not everyone gets to see, and then we're gonna eat some good eats and drink some good drinks and do it all again the next day.
Yeah. I'm going on vacation, and that's what we've been planning. I told my wife, there's some cool things. We're going to Florida, so there's some cool restaurants. And then there's these clear bottom kayaks too.
Oh, cool.
And one of them is at night, and they have LEDs in the
cool.
kayaks and stuff. So yeah, that is cool. So do you have because you're going to these national parks, you've been into them, do you have the maps and stuff where it's here's where I've been, and here's,
No, I don't.
I wanted to buy one for my dad because my dad's
they are very cool. Yeah. I did put. I'm not real into home decorating, which I think is probably surprising to some people because I'm an artist, but it just is overwhelming to me. But I did make these floating shelves in our family room, and I put photos just of all the really cool places that we've been, just So like that's like kind of like my little like national park scratch off, I guess. But it's just like actual photos.
Do you? I know when we go on vacations, we always try to buy a Christmas ornament, like to commemorate like where we went. Do you? Besides those pictures, is there something like, hey, I have these vials of dirt from each park or whatever?
No, that would have been a good idea if I would have like done that early on.
Well, now you can go back, right?
I know. I really like rocks and seashells, so I
Okay.
have like a rock and seashell collection, even though I'm a grown adult. But I
That's okay.
I can't
still
tell you where
collect
they're
Pokemon
from
cards.
though. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, my son likes Pokemon cards
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
But
See-
he's 9.
Well, in fairness, I do have an 11-year-old who we collect them
No,
together.
that's fair.
But
I hate Pokemon cards.
really,
Oh my
because
god!
are they
I find
everywhere?
them all over my
Yes,
house,
yes.
and I don't know if you could die from hearing about Pokemon and like the different like shape shifting they can do. It feels like you could die listening to someone talk about the different Pokemons
Yeah.
and like what they turn into and.
Mm-hmm. It's called Evolve, but yep.
Okay, yeah. Wow. It's a lot. Now, thank God my son is obsessed with sports.
Okay, yeah.
Which is like a little bit better than having to hear about Pokemon all day.
So I think my wife doesn't get into that because we share it. So he gives me all the information.
That's nice.
We did buy him, and I don't know if you have these books. If you don't like the information, don't buy him the encyclopedias.
Oh no, he has them.
Yeah, okay.
He has
all right.
them.
So
Yeah.
so my son when he was younger, he would go through them and like page by page and talk and tell us
Yeah.
about them and everything. And I really like it because I watched Pokemon when I was in 8th grade. Like I like it, so it's enjoyable.
It's just not my thing.
And that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine. I don't know if it's hard to say if I would have done it if I didn't have kids, because I was into Pokemon for a little bit. I remember talking to my wife just a few days ago when I was in, I was probably 6th grade or 7th grade. We stayed the night we had a sleepover it was like me and four other nerds. And we stayed up all night playing N64, playing Pokemon Snap. And if you don't know what Pokemon Snap is,
I don't.
it is a video game where the objective is to take pictures of Pokemon. That's the video game. And we played it all night. And then a new one came out a few years ago for the Switch. And I was so excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my childhood again. But just to go through all this stuff again. And again, I may have been into it without my son, but it totally plays into it.
Yeah,
where
he's got
buy
some
it.
Pokemon game on his Switch that he
Yeah.
plays and catches like the cool Pokemon,
Yeah.
which
But
lot.
so,
It's a lot,
so
yeah.
you're saying sports, the way you said sport and your shirt is perfect. It says pottery is my favorite sport.
Some of my high school students got this for me
Is
for
it?
Christmas, and they were like, "Well, Mrs. Yarnell, we know you don't really like or play sports." I said, "Okay," but I thought it was really cute that I love high school students.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But so he's into sports now, which is you said a little better.
Sports. A little better.
So
but
you're just not into sports at all either?
I mean, I don't dislike sports.
Yeah.
But
you don't have like favorite teams or anything?
I like the Steelers, but I'm also not gonna like rearrange my day to watch them play if they're not on TV.
Yeah.
I grew up with it. My dad's from Pittsburgh, so my family's in Pittsburgh, but
Okay.
I don't like get upset if they lose. I'm just not super competitive like that.
Yeah.
But no, my husband and my son they're obsessed with sports.
Yeah.
It's any kind of sport. Like my son will always ask me, "Can I turn on the TV and see if there's any sports on?" And I'm like, "No, dude,
Just the vague.
yes." Like any sports at all.
Really?
Yeah. He likes football. Football's his favorite. But he'll do basketball, baseball,
Yeah.
other sports. I don't know.
So do you ever try to pull him into like what you're doing too? Is he interested in what you do?
He used to be more so,
Yeah.
but he tolerates art. I have like, my studio in my basement, so my kids have grown up around it their whole lives. My daughters are definitely more into it, especially my middle daughter. My son will come down and like ask me if he can make, stuff out of clay every once in a while, but he loses interest pretty fast.
Sure.
Which is fine. I'm glad he has his thing.
Yeah, and because it's down there, they also probably take it for granted. Like, I can do that whenever I want to, as long as mom says it's okay.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
like not. It's not cool. They don't think it's cool.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, whatever. It's just mom's pottery studio.
Well, it's even not. It's less cool because mom does it, right?
Yeah,
I would
probably.
imagine. Yeah. And she's a teacher. Oh
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. No, he's still like, do you think you'll be my teacher when I'm in high school? So he's not quite at that age where he's like too cool, but he's getting there.
Yeah. So I coach high school kids, and you said you like, what's your favorite thing about being a high school teacher? Because you were in the junior high.
Yeah, so I was
right?
at the junior high for I don't know, like 15 years,
Yeah.
and I loved the junior high too. But then the ceramics job opened up, and I think I've been in this district for I don't know, like 18 years, and this was the first time that a high school job opened up. So I
Okay.
was really on the fence because I was happy at the junior high. I
Yeah,
liked that
yeah.
age. I liked what I was teaching, but my degree's in ceramics. I mean, I have a background in ceramics. I have a pottery studio in my house. So I was like, I feel like if I don't at least try this, I'm going to really regret it. And then I ended up just absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
So it was, I'm glad. I'm really glad. I just think high school kids are just really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like people. I always say they're like cats. Like, you just give them like some food and water, and then every once in a while you give them some pets, and they just kind of do their thing.
And then when they do give you any sort of acknowledgement, you're like,
Yeah.
don't scare the cat away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Junior high kids are more like golden retrievers, where they need like a lot of crowd control.
Yeah.
Like all day long. It's just
Yeah.
classroom management. Just they're busy.
Yeah.
But high school kids are just more kind of like, oh hey, what's up? And
Yeah.
then they just they self start. They're motivated for the most part, and they do their work, and you can talk to them, have like actual conversations. I feel like they're gonna
Conversations, yes.
remember some of the things that we do. Where like junior high, if you try and think back to junior high, like I can't even remember
Yeah.
anything about junior high.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit. Let's figure out where you started from. So did you grow up around this area?
I did. I graduated from Perrysburg.
You did. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So did you know when you're in school, is that when you started like, oh, I love ceramics?
No, I actually did not like ceramics in high school. Don Griffith was my teacher.
Yeah, he was my teacher
He's
too.
amazing.
Yeah.
So I actually took over when he retired. But I found ceramics really frustrating in high school.
Okay.
I didn't have the patience for it, and I don't know. There's not a lot of instant gratification. Like it's a skill that you have to learn, and I like especially the wheel, which was just really frustrating. So
Was there any project that you like really enjoyed?
No,
And,
I really didn't.
So why'd you take it?
I liked
You didn't
it.
have to, did you?
No, I liked Mr. Griffith. He
Okay,
was
yeah.
so great.
He was
and
very cool. Did he still play a hotel? Who sings Hotel California?
Oh, I don't
Forget.
know.
He would always play maybe the Eagles. I don't know. I had him freshman year. I had him for art class,
Yeah.
and then again I had him for ceramics.
Same.
yeah.
That's why I took ceramics, because I liked him so
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
I think I took every art class at Perrysburg, so that was just like on my list to
Okay.
take. But I went to BG as a painting major.
Oh, okay.
I actually got like a scholarship for watercolor painting, and then
Really?
yeah, I took one painting class at BG, and it's all oil paint there. And
Wait. So first of all, how does one get a scholarship for an art? So I'm
was
assuming
a-
you just like got to submit things, right?
Yes,
Okay.
it was a portfolio competition.
Okay.
So I had to prepare like a portfolio and then go to a portfolio review with one of the professors,
Mm-hmm.
and then you either, you get recommended for a scholarship or you don't, or you're accepted into the program or you're not.
Okay.
So I got accepted in and recommended for a scholarship, and then I ended up getting a scholarship, which was really cool.
Yeah.
But
But you didn't know that they didn't. So they didn't offer watercolor.
well,
or
no,
what?
it was kind of like watercolor, I guess, in the painting world is not considered like
cool or good
yeah,
a good
it's
art.
kind of like the lesser.
Okay.
So it's not like professional,
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. And also the painting studio is really boring. I think because you can do your painting at home, and
Yeah.
so I had to take ceramics when it was on, part of the requirements for my major. And I was like, I'm just going to take this and get it out of the way. And then that studio was so much fun. There were people in there 24 hours a day. Like the facilities
community.
are, yes, it was a
Okay.
community, but the facilities were like top notch. And I knew pretty quickly, I'm like, I think I want to do this. And so then I switched.
So was there a requirement for your scholarship that you do certain things in certain classes? Did you lose your scholarship, or were you able to
No,
keep it?
I think it was only like a freshman year scholarship.
Got it,
So by
okay.
then it was long gone.
Okay,
but-
okay. So that's funny. That's cool that in high school you're like, no, this isn't my jam, and then you get there, and it sounds like what turned you was the people there.
The people
And-
originally
and the-
did.
and the
So I
facilities.
started hanging out there more because I was
Okay.
like, oh, this is a fun place to be. And then I was like, well, while I'm here, I might as well get some clay out
Yeah,
and make
yeah.
something. And then eventually I got better and it wasn't so frustrating. And then I was like, no, this is really cool that I can make something that's art that you can use
Mm-hmm.
at the same time. And it was unrestricted. You could just make whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. So initially, what was your first things that you enjoyed making? Because I would imagine it's like, hey, I want to make all these things, but what was
I've always
that-
really liked the wheel. So in ceramics, there's like sculpture, and then there's the pottery wheel. And I've always really liked the pottery wheel, which is what I do now. I don't do really any sculpture except when I teach, I do sculpture. But yeah, no, I was just like, this is really cool. Like I can make as many pots as I want, and people can use them and like eat out of them, drink out of them. And I thought that was really neat. The kilns they have there, like huge, and I don't know how to describe them. I mean, it's like it's technical, boring stuff that you're not going to be interested in. But like I didn't realize. Yeah, I didn't realize like what I had until after I graduated, and then I was like, oh, like I did a lot of glass blowing in college too, and I've done glass blowing exactly once since graduating because it's crazy expensive.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean,
How do you get?
I almost minored in it because I was like, oh, this is so cool. What am I ever going to do with this?
I had a friend who did that. Who at BGSU she did a glass blowing there. It is very cool. There was reality shows on Netflix, I think.
Yeah,
that I
blown
would
away.
watch. Yeah.
I like my criticism of that show is that they don't show any of the cold working. So they show you making the piece and then they put it in the annealer and then it's on this beautiful pedestal for the judges to look at.
Yeah.
And like a whole giant part of the process that they're missing is all of like the polishing and the grinding and like the finishing of the piece. And they don't show any of that because it's boring.
Because it's boring.
It's
yes.
boring. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's so when you were talking about the sculptures, and I remember one sculpture, it still terrifies me. I had to make a self-sculpture.
Yeah, I had to make the same
oh my
thing,
gosh,
yeah.
it's so terrifying.
No, I know, they're super
It's at my
creepy.
parents' house?
Yeah, mine's at my parents' house too, and it's in the basement. And every time I'm like, oh my, I'm glad you have this still.
Did you, because mine wasn't colored. I don't know if I ran out of
I
time.
think we just
or
did
if
like
you
a solid glaze on it.
Okay,
So it was just like one, but it was like not like a realistic color. It was like splotchy or something creepy looking.
Mine was just white. Like it looked like the table. Like
Okay.
it did, yeah. But I didn't remember if I just ran out of time. Another one, we did the coil sculpture.
Yep.
I remember I was in that class and Joe Fatica, he took a ball of clay. I was almost done. Took a ball of clay, threw it. It hit my sculpture. And Mr. Griffith just is like, well, just redo it. I'm like, wait, he's not going to get in trouble?
Yeah.
He just threw a ball at me. I was so sad.
Oh.
I worked so hard. So when you're in college, was the whole time your thought was like, well, I'm going to be a teacher, or where did that
I don't
happen?
remember really thinking that much about it. I don't know. So I don't know if that's normal for that age, but I just kind of like was like, I'll figure this out as I go. And
Yeah. I think that's completely normal for that.
yeah, okay, that's good. And so I did my student teaching, and I was like, oh no, I really like this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I knew. I think when I did my student teaching, the 11th hour, like, no, this is actually what I want to do.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how far along were you? You're like, oh, okay, I'm doing this, and next month I'm graduating, and we're done.
Yeah, pretty far
Yeah.
along. Yep. Although I did dress up as an art teacher for Halloween when I was 9.
Wait, what would that look like?
So I had like a beret and
Okay.
I had an apron, and my mom puffy painted art teacher on the apron, and I had like markers like in the pocket.
You know, it's a good costume when you have to write what the costume is.
I know. My son was a goalpost for
Really?
Halloween this year. And I was like, I'm not like a crafty mom. And I know
Yeah.
people are like, oh, but you're an artist. It's
Yeah.
totally different.
I 100%.
Yeah, I'm not Pinteresty. I'm not crafty. But so I got him like a yellow sweatshirt and yellow sweatpants and a hat. And I glued a football to the hat. And whenever people were like, what are you? He put his arms up like a goalpost. You go touchdown. It was
Well, that's
easy.
good. It's interactive. He has
Yes.
to move around.
No, right?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, it's perfect. My wife, she doesn't do any of that type of stuff, Pinterest type stuff for her job. She works in an office for healthcare, but she is so good at that stuff, and it
I'm not.
amazes me. Like I think when Mateo was probably 3 or 4, he was Rocky from Paw Patrol, whatever the yellow one is, the construction guy. I think it's Rocky. Complete, like she took a lion costume and cut it up, moved it around, did whatever, and completely made this costume. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing, and that's not me.
Yeah,
at all.
and you're right. People are
Yeah,
probably like,
like,
"What do you mean?
ugh,
You make
no.
these awesome things, and you can't?"
Yeah, it like really stresses me out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Does it stress you out because people think that of you, and you know that?
I just know I'm not good at it.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
and I don't know. I'm not interested in it. Like I don't want to do crafts. It's very different. I think it's a very different like part of your brain. I think.
Yeah. Can you sew? Do you sew?
No. But so I did. So I'm pretty sure I have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed because it wasn't really a thing when I was in school.
Yeah, 100%.
But I've been told I'm annoying my entire life, and it turns out that it's probably just I know I'm annoying, and I can't stop it.
Yeah.
Because I know like I interrupt people. It's hard for me to like carry a conversation on. I jump all over the place.
Do people tell you you're loud?
I'm very loud. I've been told that I'm a loud talker my entire life also.
And the only reason I asked, I don't think you're loud, but I can tell you're aware of it because of how far off your mic, and I don't have to tell you to scoot up to the mic because you're projecting and it's perfect. So
good. Well, that's good.
But I was just curious. Like
so with the ADHD, like there's this thing called hyperfocus, and my parents always told me like you don't have this because I can read, and I read like I think I read over 100 books last year. Like I love to read, and they said because I could sit and read a book, no, that doesn't fit with ADHD. Well, I wanted to do a project I have one intro to art class too, which is like the general art that it's like that's what everyone takes before they take the electives. So I wanted to do like an embroidery project with them, but I didn't know how to embroider. So I got books from the library and I taught myself how to embroider. And I sat there for like 7 or 8 hours and I taught myself 10 different embroidery stitches. Which is not normal, but I learned how to do it. So I don't sew, but I did teach myself in one day how to embroider.
Do you do any of that now? Or is it just that for that one day?
That's another fun thing about hyperfocus sometimes is like, this was very interesting to me for like the 8 hours that I was learning it. And now I'm like,
I do that, and I talked about that with Mr. Hilt when he was on here about all these different things he gets involved in, and he was like brewing beer and cooking and that kind of stuff. I go, I'm like that too.
Yeah.
And when I first started this podcast, I thought that's what this is going to be like. Like, I'm going to be into it for a year at most, and then I'm going to be done with it. And sometimes I feel that way, but I do get like want to do these things, and I got to invest a little bit in. It was like, all right, well, I guess I'm done with this. Like, we'll move on to the next thing. But my wife is very good at cultivating anything I want to do. And she's like, all right, well, let's keep doing it. And then when I'm done with it, she's like, maybe in her brain, and she doesn't tell me, where it's like, well, that's just one of these things that he's going to be done with it in a little bit or whatever. But she doesn't tell me. So
my husband is the exact opposite. He's never had like an impulsive thought in his entire life. He's a very analytical and plans everything out. We have very different personalities in some way, but like we're very similar in other ways. So it's
well, it works out. Like
it does.
Especially if there's I don't want to call them deficiencies, but if there's something you're not good at or he's not good at, it sounds like the other one can kind of pick up for that, right?
Yeah.
Can he? Is he Pinterest? Like, can he do that kind of stuff?
Not.
Well, both your kids are
not at
just
all.
gonna suffer then, huh?
Yeah, no, they are. They're gonna be like the ones with like the Amazon, Halloween costumes.
Yeah.
Or usually for Halloween, I'm just like, go find something downstairs because like we have all of these costumes and dress up clothes. And I know some people get like really into holidays, and that is also not me at all.
Not at all.
No.
Huh? Do you have? I mean, you at least have like a tree and ornaments.
Oh
right?
yeah, we have a tree. And,
just enough for the kids to be like, yes, it's Christmas time.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my wife got into gnomes this year for Christmas. And I think it was by accident. Like she bought this like family, and then we ended up with an 8-foot blow up gnome in the front yard.
Oh, wow.
So that was a new thing. But I enjoy Christmas, and I think she enjoys it too. Like putting the stuff up. It's a one day thing. Like we're gonna put everything up, and then it's not. We don't have that much stuff. But there's not. Is there any holidays that you get in, like you like at all or get into? No? Flag Day?
Not really. Flag Day is my birthday.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't dislike them. I just don't really.
Well, you talked about even decor at your house too, right?
Yeah, it's just not my thing.
Yeah.
I have like a few things that I do. Like I have a big collection of pottery that I've traded and I bought. So my dad, who's really, really like amazing. I grew up in like a family that valued the arts, and my dad's done all sorts of different art, and he does a lot of really great like woodworking things. And he made me these shelves for my mugs. So I think I have 5 shelves now, and they're really cool, and they take up like an entire wall of my dining room. So I like that. I like my seashell collection that I have also displayed on the wall. I like my photo frames.
Yeah. Well, you still like it's your decor. Some other people might not like it, but screw them. It's your house.
I grew up in a house where it was like everything was very perfect, and the decor was very well thought out. And I don't know, like I have like my kids' artwork and school papers like hanging up all over my
Yeah.
kitchen, like on the cabinets and stuff. But that makes me happy. I like to see
Yeah.
that stuff. So.
Do you find it difficult to when kids come home with stuff every day?
Oh my God.
Do you find it difficult to like get rid of stuff?
No.
Yeah, my
I
wife's
love
the same way.
getting rid of stuff.
If my wife would show me something and then she'll put it in a discard pile, I was like, well, how come that did? Because she does save some stuff.
No, I save some stuff,
Right.
but
But
they
she has a
bring
criteria.
home so much, and then they'll call me out on it too. They're like,
Yes.
"Where did this go?" And I was like, "I just tell them." I'm like, "I threw it away."
Yeah.
I mean, it's been sitting on the counter for days now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter found something in the garbage one time. It was like, Mom, why'd you throw this thing away? It's like, there's a lot of stuff. You guys have a lot of stuff.
Yes.
My mom
It's
saved
too much. My mom
everything.
also saved everything.
And then they both, her and my dad, get mad when we don't want it.
Yeah,
I don't need a spelling test from third grade.
Right.
Like, you know?
Yeah.
But so they brought these giant tubs out. We went through them, and I think I took 1% of what was in there. And my parents were like, you did it wrong. I was like, I don't want this stuff. If you guys get rid of it, or just give me the tub and I'll get rid of it if you don't want to get rid of it.
Every time my kids go to my parents' house, they come home with like bags stuffed full of things that my mom gives them, and then I just bag it back up and I take it right back over there.
Yeah.
My mom saved every toy I had from when I was a child, and she has set up this like they have like a loft in their house, and she has set up all of these toys for the girls, and they love going over there and playing with it.
Yeah.
But I'm not saving all of the toys.
I save some stuff, and I have some stuff where I used to record in my basement, and the video would show this wall of it's just sports stuff everywhere. My dad would buy all these weird knickknacks and Wheaties boxes and Coke cans with logos and all kinds of stuff. So I have all that stuff, and I can't even put all of it up because my kids are in the basement and they do stuff in there, right? So eventually I'll have all my sports stuff up. So I have things that I save, and I want to display. I also don't have my own space until they're done messing around down there.
Yeah.
Because stuff would get broken. I'm sure
Right.
things have been broken.
Oh, yep.
So, I find it. I thought it was cool. You were talking about when we first talked about you going to school for art and stuff, and how you like pottery and we're drawn to ceramics and that kind of stuff. Because I think the cool part of that is it's something you can use as opposed to just staring at, right? And that, and if you give somebody something, they can use it, or hopefully they use it. Maybe they just put it on display and they stare at it. But the intent is to be used, I would imagine, right?
Yes.
Are there things that you make you're like, this isn't going to be used? This is specifically for this thing.
No, I hope not. I think like with my pottery, like I want it to be like somebody's everyday coffee cup or something that somebody uses a lot.
Yeah.
So there's definitely pots that I own or artists that don't, they make very intricate things that maybe would be like a special occasion, kind of like wedding china or whatever. And that's not what I want to make. I want to make something that you feel comfortable using and you're not afraid that's going to break. And so
everyday stuff.
Yes, I want people to use my work.
Are there what was I going to say? Do people ask you for that kind of stuff though? Like, hey, or do people ever ask you to make particular things? Because I know with art and I have tattoos and I've gone to the same artist and I tell him what I want and I don't tell him how to do it because I'm not the artist. And whatever he comes up with, I'm like, yeah, that's your art. You're just putting it on my body. Are there people that tell you like, I want specifically these things, and do you feel like you have to do it?
Yes, and no, I don't do commissions.
Okay, good. Okay, cool.
Some people love commissions. I hate them. They really stress me out. I feel like a lot of times people think they know what they want, but they really don't. It takes me so long to make pieces, and I have a lot of there's reasons behind everything I do. Like there's a lot of information in all of my designs. They're not just, like pretty flowers or something.
Yeah.
Like there's depth there, and I don't want to just make like a pot with someone's dog on it. So that's just not me. There's a lot of people that enjoy that. I don't. I also, because I have 3 kids, I don't have a ton of time to make.
Yeah.
So I can't promise you like, oh, yeah, I can get you this pot by this time.
What if people were, because with same thing with tattoos, I just say, here are the flowers I want. I don't care what they look like. What if someone says, can you make me a pot I just want these flowers on it, whatever.
No.
Nothing.
No, I
that's
don't know.
fine.
Like,
No, that's fine. I was just curious.
I really wanted to make work that had meaning
Mm-hmm.
and not just, something that was pretty. So it's important for me that like my designs have, thought behind them. And I don't know.
that's
It's just
good.
something that I
No.
enjoy. Like I like visual research. I like looking at different things and trying to come up with like a way that I want to, portray this idea. But I'm not real. No, I don't know. I get some people do. But.
Yeah, and I, you understand why, but I think it's good that here's what I do. If you don't like it, well then go somewhere
Yeah.
else. Because I think that's too many times people are like, I'm going to sell out, or these people want to do this, or people want to do that. And if you can just stick to what you want to do, like this podcast, I want to do what I want to do. And if someone would tell me, like, well, you should do it this way or that way, it's like, well, then start your own podcast because this is what I do. And I think that's the same way with the art you have. It's like, well, this is what I do. If you don't like it, I'm sure there's somebody out there, or maybe you even say, hey, this person does that. Why don't you go to them?
But I think a lot of people don't really understand what I do. So, and that's fine. I know it's a niche. It's not like something that people are like, oh yeah, I'm very familiar with pottery. I know a lot about it. So I don't
mugs.
like, I just kind of, I have my community that does understand what I do.
Yeah.
And they're the people that I get, my validation from, I guess.
Yeah.
So I commissions are not my thing.
Well, that's cool. Yeah.
I had like a reel on Instagram that was pretty popular. And after that, I had all these people asking me to make like Star Wars mugs. And I was like, oh man, I don't know. Like if you've looked at any of my pieces, they're very like botanical. I don't know if they don't really give off Star Wars vibes. So yeah.
That's why I like.
But then you say no and you look like a jerk. And I don't want people to think I'm a jerk. Like, no, I'm above doing commissions, and I'm not. I just don't want to do that.
Well, yeah. Well, but you're 100% right. You could say no in the nicest way, and
Yeah.
people are still going to take it. Well, you made me feel this way. It's like, I'm
Yes.
sorry. I don't do that stuff. Do people who do what you do, pottery? Is there like if you look at something, you're like, oh, that person made that because I can tell.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Is there really?
Yeah.
So what is your thing then? Like, do you know?
All of my work is inspired by human interaction with nature, and I don't know. Like I'll tell you about. There's one design that I do that has like poppy flowers on it, and that's inspired by the war on drugs.
Yeah.
So there's like these little decals on it that look like flowers, but they're actually made from the dollar symbol because the war on drugs is the most expensive war that we have ever fought.
Yeah.
And without getting too political, like it's not the most effective war either.
No.
And the poppies are like the opium poppies.
Yep.
I have been to, I think, 6 funerals for people who have died from opiate addictions. This just took a dark turn, I guess.
No, that's fine because my brother passed away from.
And it's awful. It's
Yeah.
awful. It's a big problem, especially around this area. And I'm sorry about your brother also.
No, thank you.
It's horrible.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I wanted to make work that also had meaning infused in it. There's like the poppy seed pods, and they're supposed to represent jail bars because the United States has a pretty high incarceration rate for drug offenders, and I don't know if I really believe that's the solution.
I agree with you. I don't think so.
To just put them in jail where
Yeah.
I believe addiction's a disease, and
I grew up. My brother passed away from an overdose. My mom was alcoholic for a long time. She's been clean for a while now, but that's where I learned it from my mom. Right. So she told me, she's like, it's not like, and you can tell people it's a disease. Like, no, it's not. They can quit whenever they want to. It's like, no, it's in your brain that's making you do this stuff. And there's a lot of others. There's cancer in your brain that makes you do things or make you feel a certain way. It's the same way. It's just people see all the negatives, like all the negative stuff, because it is a lot of negative stuff. And they're like, oh, well, they can be, I don't drink and I don't do drugs. Okay, well, you don't have that in your brain then, right? You have something else.
Especially opiates, I think they actually like rewire your brain to think and act in a certain way that you just need more and more and more. But you know, with the DARE program and stuff in school, you're always taught a certain thing, and obviously the way we've been trying to like fight this problem isn't working.
Yeah, so we gotta do something else here.
Yeah.
Let's try something else.
And I'm not, I mean, so I just make pottery. It's my way of like kind of understanding, and also like hopefully it's subtly infused with enough meaning that maybe it inspires thought as you're using it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, especially because of what you make. Was that a mug?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I mean, I put that design on a lot of different things.
Okay, so let's just say for my example, people are using this mug, they're seeing it every day, right? It's something, and even if they don't know exactly what it is, maybe they start looking into it a little bit more. Or because it's a mug, it's a smaller thing. They can't
Yeah.
just like look at a big thing and see this thing. They have to actually like look at all these little things in it and see all these different meanings. And I think that's the good part too, is you can go to a museum and see that thing that you put on the mug on a print and see it, but then you're gonna see it one time. But now these people get to see it all the time.
Yeah.
Or
and
other
with,
people get to see it.
Like pottery's so personal too, because you really have to interact with it to use it. Like you're holding it, you're drinking out of it.
Yeah.
It's like an intimate thing.
Yeah. How are any of your family members tired of getting mugs for Christmas?
I made my dad a mug after I graduated from college, and it said like this mug was like, I don't know, like $20,000. This was a $20,000 mug. He always joked about paying money for me to go to college just to make pots,
Yeah.
but I make them stuff sometimes. I don't usually like give people things unless they ask for it, because I don't like force it on them.
Sure,
But,
sure.
Yeah, I don't. My family's very supportive,
Yeah.
but like I said, I don't expect them to be like, I'm not getting my validation from them.
Yeah. So, them being supportive, obviously that's really all you need from them, right?
Yeah.
That, hey, cool, do it. Does it feel any different when they are like, when they do like get really interested in it or a particular thing or anything, or
I
is
don't
it?
know if that's really happened. I mean, they get excited for me, when I'm accepted into things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
but I don't think they really understand what I do, and that's fine. Like, I don't
They don't
expect
have
them
to,
to, because
right?
like I said, it's a niche. It's a weird,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing where if you're not like in the pottery world, it's kind of like, oh, it's cool you do pottery.
This conversation is very enlightening to me. Not just like, obviously I don't know anything about pottery besides my high school classes, but also that it makes me feel good to like. It also makes me think like I've learned for a long time. I'm doing my podcast because I want to do it. Like, it's
Yeah.
fun. If people listen, cool. If they don't, whatever. But it makes me feel better feeling that way. Hearing you say, I don't really care this is my thing and I want to do my thing. It makes me feel validated that I'm doing my thing.
I'm
You know
glad
what
I can do
mean?
that for you.
Yeah. So it's when I talk to people about it, or even talking to Joel, Katie, and who's the other guy? Why he was on my podcast too, and I can't think of his name right now. They do the Jack and Sports podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Jack. Joel came up to me in football practice like, Coach, someone sent me a message saying that they listen to the podcast. I go, doesn't that feel good? He goes, yeah. I go, and even if it's one person that says, this particular thing, that means they're listening. He goes, it feels so good just someone to reach out to say like, yeah, I listened to it. You guys did a really good job.
Yeah.
And again, if it's 5 people, 1,000 people, whatever, I just know someone's listening to it. And even again, if they don't, I'm having fun. Hopefully the people that come on here have fun, and that's all I care about. And it's good to hear you like, I'm having fun. My community is awesome. My husband is, there too. Like it's
He's
all
very supportive. He's not an
Yeah.
art person, but like
Yeah.
he built me like a table for I have a thing called a pug mill that like helps recycle the clay. So he
Okay.
built me a table for that. He wired up both of my kilns for me.
Yeah.
So he gets excited for me, but again, like it's a weird niche, and it's not his niche. So
Well, that just reminded me. It's the same thing when I tell my wife, like, "Oh, I got 50 subscribers on YouTube now," and she's like, "Yeah," and my daughter's like, watches YouTube, and my son too, and I tell them, and I remember telling my daughter I have 50 subscribers, and she looked at my wife, and I heard my wife go, "Just tell them congratulations."
the one thing, like, especially with my students, they see my pottery, they're like, oh yeah, that's cool, but they're very impressed, or maybe not very impressed. They're slightly impressed by the amount of Instagram followers I have.
Yeah, because it's over 30,000, right?
Yeah.
Something like that, right? How do you feel about that?
I think it's really cool.
Yeah,
When I
yeah.
started, doing this, I never thought that I would be able to reach this many people. And, I know there's a lot of people who say things about social media, and definitely it has its pros and cons. But with Instagram, can interact with artists that I never would. I would see, before Instagram, it was like you would get like a magazine, like a pottery magazine. You would see photos in it. You didn't really have a way of seeing, other people's work. Even you could look online, I guess, at galleries, but it was more of like a static thing. And then Instagram came, and these artists have their Instagram account. You can actually talk to them. You can ask them questions. How did you do this? I've got like a couple group chats on Instagram with other pottery nerds, and we can, bounce ideas back and forth because there's not a lot of local pottery people here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some, but most of my pottery friends live all over the country and in different parts of the world even. But it's a really cool way to, I mean, I had one video, I think, that had like 6 billion views, which is crazy to me that 6 million people saw like me working on a pot like that. That's not...
Are you on TikTok?
I am. I don't do as much with TikTok because, like, when I watch TikTok, I want to see like dumb videos.
Yeah.
Like, I resisted TikTok for a really long time, but then like during COVID, I just needed something mindless. I don't have a Facebook. Like, I have a pottery Facebook, but I don't have like a personal page because it was just starting to make me lose faith in humanity.
Sure.
But I just like needed something that was just a mindless like whatever. So I don't watch a lot of art things on TikTok. My TikTok is very different. I feel like Instagram's trying to compete with TikTok because they're doing their reels and whatever. Yeah. But I use both things for different reasons.
So my TikTok is nothing. Whatever I'm interested on TikTok is just TikTok stuff.
Yes.
Like I like. It hasn't come up a lot, but people, I think they're mixing different silicone colors on this thing that spins.
Oh, the cups. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And that's cool. And it sounds cool. I've gotten into like police auditing videos so they're called like these people who have cameras and they're like filming a police station, and then police come out and like, hey, what are you doing? Basically tell them that they can't do it. And it's like, hey, this is all public property. They're called auditors.
Okay.
But basically, some of them make their living like getting arrested and then suing cities and municipalities because cops don't know what they're doing all the time. So a lot of those videos pop up. I like sports, but there's very few sports stuff on TikTok. I just like all that dumb stuff.
I don't see any art on my TikTok. I see a lot of like funny mom ones, funny teacher ones, some cat ones thrown in there. And then everything on my Instagram is art. So everyone I follow is an artist. And then I have like people I know in real life on there too. Yeah. But
it's Instagram is so much better than Facebook because Facebook is a lot of words and Instagram is made for pictures.
I found myself like knowing that I was going to get mad when I looked at Facebook and just reading the comments, and I just was like, no, I think it's time for a break. Yeah. And so I was probably like 6 months ago that I deactivated it, and I haven't missed it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think about that, but I need social media to promote my podcasts, and now I run my own personal accounts on 3 different social media sites. This podcast has accounts, and my other podcast with my dad friends that I do has. So I have 3 different accounts on all these social media things that I
have like my pottery website or my pottery Facebook page. I just don't have a personal one.
Yeah.
But that just cross posts. So like everything, I have like Instagram set up. So whatever I post on Instagram just automatically posts on Facebook.
Yeah, I don't have enough followers on my podcast pages, so I got to constantly share it with my personal page just because, I mean, I'm not going to make people like the page. It'd be nice if they did.
Yes.
So I haven't got there where I can get rid of my other personal one because I use that right now as the way to get people to listen to the podcast. So eventually, I'll get that way.
Goals.
Yeah. So when I think we stopped talking about when you decided you want to be a teacher, you went through your what's it called when you're teaching? Student teaching. Did you get a job at Perrysburg right away?
I didn't. I actually got hired at Northwood Middle School. So I taught there for a year. I was only part-time, so I taught 4 different classes, but I didn't get a lunch or a planning period, and I made $13,000 to do that. And I loved it there. It's very different from Perrysburg. It's just a different, the kids are, it's different.
Yeah.
But it was a great learning experience for me. And then a job opened up at Perrysburg Junior High. So I applied for that. And I got that job, and I coached for 6 years.
Oh, what'd you coach?
I coached cross country.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and I was not a runner prior to that.
Yeah.
But when they called me after the interview, the principal at the time said, "Hey, I just have one more question for you. How would you feel about coaching running?" And I said, "Hey, I can't run, but I just need a job."
Yeah.
And so I got the job, and I became the cross country coach, and I was terrified the kids would figure out that I couldn't run.
Yeah.
So I started running, and I hated it so much. And then one day I didn't hate it. So since then, I've actually run 5 half marathons.
Oh, wow.
I know, I really like running now.
That's crazy.
I'm not fast or anything, but I like it was like meditation.
enjoyable.
Like I'm not good at like normal meditation because I have a really hard time sitting still. But when I run, you just kind of like get into that zone, and it's just like my mind. It's one of the only things that makes my mind just like go blank. So I love running. So I coached for 6 years, loved coaching. Then I had kids, and it's tough to coach with young kids.
Oh, yeah.
So took a break from that, but maybe someday in the future I'd like to get back into that.
I know they're always. I coached track in junior high for a while. I know they're always looking for coaches there
because
too.
there's like 25 track coaches.
There is a lot.
There's a lot.
I started at Rossford coaching shot and disc, and we were allowed 5 coaches if we had over 75 kids at Rossford, which was a little more difficult to do than at Perrysburg, when it was like we take like 3 or 4 buses to track meets. But I remember our job, and I wasn't in the school. The other coaches were teachers at Rossford, and they would tell me like we recruit so we can get this 5th coach paid. And then when we're done recruiting and we get to that point where here's the line, you're good, here's your 5th coach, then that's when we make practices really hard to see if we can get kids to quit.
Yeah. We started out, I think, Justin Baddock, who's now teaching in like Mackinac Island or something.
Oh, wow.
He moved up there last year. But so him and I coached for 6 years together, and we started out with like 30 kids, and we ended up with over 80, which, at the time you're like, oh, wow, this is really great for the program. And then you're like, wait a second, what are we going to do with all these kids? And there's just 2 of us. But we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It teaches you a lot too, especially because I wasn't a teacher. I'm not a teacher.
Yeah.
So like having to, some days I would turn to the teachers and go, how do you do with these kids all day and then come out here and do this, So I get just enough. I think I would have enjoyed being a teacher. I initially went to school for construction, and then I was going to be a history teacher, and then I decided not to do it. But it is a difficult thing to be dealing with kids all day, with all these different minds and different personalities, and it's hard dealing with my 2 kids that are completely different, and
it can be kind of mentally exhausting. I don't know if my husband always gets that because his job is very different than mine, but I tell him like I'm on all day. Performing all day. I have my planning period and I have my lunch, but then I have 6 classes, and it can be like mentally taxing, but it's never boring.
Oh,
it's never boring.
100%.
There's a lot going on all the time, and I really like my job, so I look forward to it. I like being there. I really like the kids. It's a pretty sweet gig.
Do you feel like your whole personality can come out when you're teaching?
I think I have to tone it down a little bit, but I think a lot of it comes out. I always tell the kids that there's 2 different kinds of crazy. There's fun crazy and there's scary crazy. I am fun crazy. Yeah.
I just think I remember those are the teachers I got like I liked the most when I could feel their personality. I think at the time when you're a high school student, you don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I could, like, there was an English teacher I had who not a lot of people liked, but I really liked her. She was older. God, I wish I remembered her name. I had her twice, sophomore year and senior year. But she just let us, first of all, she let us do what we wanted. Like, we did what we were supposed to do, but she let us do it how we wanted to do it. Right. I think my friends and I made a video when we were studying Julius Caesar. We made a movie of Julius Caesar. We had to cut it to fit in a 50-minute class period. Like, it was just legit, like, production we did. But she let us do it, and because she knew we were still kind of learning, and then we presented in the class, and she let us watch it, and it was cool. But she like, I don't know if she was like this with all the classes, but I know she was like with us. Like, she would make fun of us, and she would, like, talk stern when she had to be stern. But that time made it a little easier to take because she was, had a good personality.
I think as a teacher, like you can't take yourself too seriously sometimes. I mean, like I am, obviously very passionate about ceramics and pottery, but I'm not expecting my students to be.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe I'm imparting some skills on them, like taking a project from a conception to completion. Maybe planning, and there's got to be some critical thinking involved in there somewhere. Yeah. But, I think there's like different philosophies with teaching. Like if you're like super passionate about math, but you just have to like the kids more than you like what you teach, I think, or you're going to be miserable.
Yeah, because you're dealing with them for your entire life, right?
Yeah, like I love ceramics, but I actually just like the kids more. Just they're fun.
Do teachers have, I would imagine they do they have favorite kids?
Oh, for sure, for sure. But they're not the kids that you would expect, I think. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I would imagine one like if you have a favorite kid, not all the time are they good at whatever you're teaching, right?
Right.
You're just
you definitely have kids that you like have like you have connections with. You're you have a better relationship with. But I don't know. I like all the kids. For
sure,
You got to remember that they're kids still.
Yeah.
So if they try and like get you mad or frustrated or whatever, like it's still a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
They asked me the other day, one of my classes, they're like, do you ever just go home and you're just so mad? And I'm like, no, not really. I just don't.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Do you ever feel at any, like, do you get mad in general for anything? Really mad about stuff? Or is that just, I would imagine it fits your personality.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely get animated, but like really mad, no.
Do you ever get mad at yourself when something isn't, when you're making something?
I'm probably harder on myself than anyone else is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine you could make this great pot and there's one tiny flaw in it, and that's all you see, but someone else can see this amazing thing, right?
I don't live with my own work very often because I can't.
Yeah.
So some people get really attached to their own artwork. I do not I get out of my house. Like I'm done. I don't want to see you again.
Yeah. That's the thing. I don't know about that. I don't even listen to myself talk on these. So that's what I think Scott said. He was like, you don't listen at all? I go, no. He goes, you think it'd be like a coaching tool, like you can listen, like, oh, you did this or that. I was like, no, I cannot. I listen to as little as I can because I got to edit it, but I can't listen.
Well, I can't think of like many cringier things than listening to like your own recorded voice. Like it's like, a special form of torture. Like, oh my God, do I really sound like that?
Yeah, I just let other people tell me like, hey, it was good or it sounded bad or this happened or whatever,
Yeah.
I do have to talk to you about one story that Scott told me to talk to you about. He said, I don't know, I forget how long ago it was, but I was just with him last night, and he's like, oh, you got to talk to her about the story. When he was, I think he said he was teaching.
Oh my gosh, the panic alarm?
Yeah.
Yes.
He said you came flying into his room like, what's happening?
Yeah. Well, and I think Scott and I probably have like polar opposite personalities.
Yeah.
He's just always like so level.
Yes.
And I'm never level. And so I was teaching 6th grade at the time, and his room was like right next to mine. And I probably should not say this on a podcast, but I had a very different first impression of Scott. I don't think I've ever told him this, but I had a very different first impression of him.
Well, I think, I mean, you don't have to say it if you don't want to, but I think it's fine now. I mean, there's one reason, like, I had a very different impression of my father-in-law. Like, I didn't think he was a cool guy.
I thought he was like a total bro. Like a bro.
Oh, really?
Like, he came to the junior high to be the athletic director, so I thought he was just like a sports bro. And then I thought that until he did my evaluation when he became the assistant principal. And I went in there just expecting it to be like a total blow off, whatever. And then he started talking, and I was like, whoa, he is actually smart. I just did not like. Yeah. He would always walk like right past like our rooms and just like staring straight ahead. And I kind of thought he was a jerk, but then the more I got to know him, the more I realized he was just really like focused on things. Yeah. Because I'm not focused on really anything. I'm always just kind of like all over the place. But no, so anyway, I'm teaching, and this awful alarm just starts going off, and it said something like, "This is an emergency."
Intruder or something, right?
Yeah, lockdown. And in my head, I'm thinking like, this is real, because they usually tell us when something like that's going to happen. So my room at the junior high was connected to the storage room and another art room. The other art teacher wasn't in there. She was somewhere else. So I'm trying to frantically like lock all of the doors.
Yeah.
My students just look at my face, and they could tell that I'm also like not calm in stressful situations. Like I completely panic.
Yeah.
And so this was a good like few minutes of this alarm going. This was before, you could like text your entire staff or email your entire staff and say, hey, disregard this, it's not real.
Yeah.
Afterwards, we all got on like a group message, so that could happen. But so then like finally after, it was probably like 3 minutes at least, and they came on and they said that was the mistake. Like somebody hit the alarm. We didn't even know this alarm existed.
Yeah.
And I think I lost like 3 years off my life while that happened.
Dang.
And so then like the bell rang, blah, blah, blah. So I go into his room and I'm like, oh my God, what in the world? And he's just sitting at his desk drinking his coffee.
Yeah.
Drinking his coffee, like no big deal. And I was like, did you know that wasn't real? And he was like, no.
But
I thought,
that's how he is.
Like, are you like a robot? Like, how did that not scare you?
Yeah, that would terrify me.
He's just really calm all the time. And I'm just kind of a spaz, so. Yeah, no, it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
It's the way he described it. I mean, he was laughing the whole time he was telling me the story, but the way he described it sounded awful. Especially like you said, it's not just a fire alarm.
No.
It's this person coming on saying there's an intruder in the building or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just hear stuff on the news, and it's always in the back of your head when you're a teacher, and it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah. And nope, Scott's just drinking his coffee, like living his best life at his desk.
Yeah. That is that's interesting to hear your impression of him before you talked to him, because I mean I graduated with him, so we played football together, and we stayed in touch a little bit in college when he was in college, but then we really started becoming friends. Probably better. We didn't hang out in high school, maybe during football season a few times, but once he started teaching, he was a football coach for a while. Then I helped him coach. Then we became friends a lot. So I got to know him a little bit more. But even then, like before that, it was just this quiet kid. Like he was just quiet all the time. But then as you get to know him, and he is super serious, and he cares about his work, and he wants to do a good job, and he wants the teachers to do a good job and everything, So he's very focused on that. And we just had a discussion.
Never serious.
Yeah. Well, I think that's perfect for an art teacher.
Yes.
Right? Not to say everyone's zany or whatever that teaches art. Mr. Griffith, I think, was complete opposite. Like he never seemed.
So I joked when I took over, I was like, these kids are just going to be like, does she ever shut up? Because he was so quiet and so calm, and I am not calm ever, very loud.
But sometimes a shakeup is good. Like a difference, a huge difference in personalities changes how kids are, and then eventually it's just like, oh, this is our teacher. I don't even know who Mr. Griffith is,
Well, that's the one, I guess, good thing is that like none of the kids I have now had him, because you really only take like 2 years of ceramics maybe. So he made me a mug before he retired, and it said like, I don't care how Mr. Griffith does it. This is how I do it. Yeah, which was really nice.
That's cool. He was such a cool dude, and I was so bummed when I didn't get into ceramics too. Because I liked doing it. It was fun. But he made it, even though his personality just is not yours or mine, but for whatever he did, like he was just a really good teacher.
Yes, he was a really good teacher.
He made me comfortable in there for not knowing how to do any of that stuff. I came from a really small school where we barely had art class. So like coming into Pearsburg, and all these different techniques and different paints and pencils and all kinds of stuff I had to do freshman year, like he just made it like really easy to do.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
He really helped me like with the transition. I was nervous about coming over and teaching ceramics full time, because it was so different than when I taught at the junior high. And I was like, oh man, am I gonna like this? Am I gonna be able to do it? And he showed me everything, gave me all of his projects and all of his lessons and everything, which was super helpful.
How much of that, like, did you end up using or not using or evolved? First of all, how long have you been at the high school?
This is my second year.
Okay. So I would imagine a lot of that stuff you're still kind of deciding, am I keeping this or am I changing
last
it
year
or
was
whatever,
a transition year where I just the kids would get really frustrated because I kept changing stuff like in the middle. I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do it this way anymore. And they're like, stop moving stuff around. And yeah.
So you're still trying to I would imagine you're still trying to find exactly
but I
how
feel
you
like
wanna do it,
now
right?
I've been through a whole year of it and I understand more like how the class is going to flow and how things work at the high school. So this year I had a much better like handle on what I was going to do.
If there was one thing, like let's say someone was this, they want to be not just an art teacher, but a teacher in general. Like, what would you tell them? Like, if you're trying to be a good teacher, what's something to focus on, especially your first few years? Like, is there something that you remember, or something advice gave you, or something that you think now, like, oh, I wish I would have done this, or connected with these people, or did this or that?
I think, looking back, like, when you think about the teachers that made like the most impact, in your life, like you didn't always recognize it at the time, but, they were teachers that cared about their content and they cared about their students, but they also weren't total pushovers, I think. Like you have to have boundaries and rules. I don't know. It's tough because there's so many different kinds of teachers and there's so many different kinds of kids, like.
Yeah. I know it's impossible to answer, but I just didn't know if there was something that you do or that you've done that you felt like, oh, this works. Nothing's work 100% of the time, but this works a majority of the time, or this feeling I have or give or whatever,
I think you just have to really like the kids. And I told myself if I stop liking the kids, then I'm done.
Yeah.
Because I can be super passionate about pottery, but if I don't actually like the kids, then what's the point?
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on here. This is awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And
I want to be on more than Ben Marshall. So how many episodes has Ben done?
I'd have to look. I want to say 4, and one of those might be the one that I had to take down. So, and I can tell you that story.
I would love to hear that story. Yes. No. So, all right. That's goals. That's goals for me. Like,
yeah. For sure. Like you again, you made me feel good to know. Like I always thought that I don't care what people think, but everyone says that, but they really do. And you really made a point. Like, yes, here's my community. This is what I love. And
to clarify, like I care very deeply about what my community thinks.
Yes.
I just don't.
But they also care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I don't expect like the people in my normal everyday life to care as much about. They definitely support me.
And
but
that's all you need.
Yeah.
And that's all I need. But you really drove it home for me just having this conversation. So I appreciate that. And thank you for coming on the podcast. I will definitely have you on. If your goal is to beat Ben Marshall, then I'll have you on more episodes. So thanks again.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody, for checking out this episode of the Nerdball podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you're hearing this, on any of the podcatchers. On YouTube, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. We're coming at you 2 times a week now, audio and video. Check us out on all the social medias. Just search the Nerdball podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're out there. Gmail is the nerdballpodcast@gmail.com. If you want to shoot us an email, we'd be happy to get back to you. Thanks to Real JP Multimedia, Cuttlefish Graphics, Perrysburg Junior High STEM Lab, and Big Daddy Graphics for helping out the podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.